Welcome into Between the Pylons. I'm John Camacho.
And this is Jacob Waters.
And guys, we are doing the first of a double header this week. 2 pods. Unfortunately, I had to go get COVID and then go on vacation, and it totally screwed up our schedule. We had it perfectly planned out to be able to do every single division right before the draft, right before the season. Didn't work out that way, so we are doubling up.
It's time for a content dump.
Exactly, content dump, and canceling a couple other plans that we had, but that's all right. So right now, this episode, we are doing NFC South. If you are also interested, and AFC East is up next. So let's get right into it. We're doing a deep dive breakdown on every team in the NFC South. We'll start here with the Panthers, and give me your raw reaction to the Panthers as we put up the first graphic.
Man, raw reaction on the Panthers. So the thing is, right here, I'm just going to try to set the table for you. Because I know that this is your team. We have talked about all offseason how we have certain teams that, you want to see them make that next step. And I know the Carolina Panthers are yours. Yeah. And I love a lot of the moves that they made in the offseason, too. Let me start by saying I am a huge Sam Darnold believer. Mm-hmm. I have seen the flash of what he has in New York at times. Some of the throws, I've said it so many times, so I'm blue in the face, that some of the throws, if you were to blur out the quarterback, you would be like, oh, the sidearm power, throwing a deep post route, sidearm down the middle, that's Pat Mahomes type stuff. Yeah. That's what he does. He does have, I would call it elite arm talent. He does. Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping that with the security blanket of an offense around him, a very good offensive line. They've made a lot of moves to bolster that up. McCaffrey, DJ Moore, Terrace Marshall had a hell of a fucking preseason game.
Yes,
it was awesome to see. I think it's going to be a good year. Defensively, we're going to need to see some key pieces step up in the secondary. J.C. Horn is my guy, though, and I really think he's going to be able to fill that. And when it comes to a front, they're not, I was about to say front seven. I think they're lacking in their linebacker department, but that defensive line, Brian Burns is a sneaky pick for a defensive player of the year.
Yeah.
I know it'll shock you, but when you go look at all these betting websites out there, that you can find Brian Burns, and the way that he's able to get pressure, he is jab step, all of it. I've seen so much film on him lately, and that's a guy that I'm looking to break out.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Florida Stater, love that you give him props to him. I love that you mentioned defense, and let's start with defense. Just obviously we'll get to everything else. They spend the least amount of money in the NFL on the defense this year, right? So it's just young, and it's not really their fault. They spent every single draft pick last year on the defense, a lot of draft picks this year on the defense. They have bolstered this defense with young guys, and usually when you say, oh, they're spending the least amount on the defense in the NFL, that would scare you. But it doesn't mean, Brian Burns, he's going to get a payday. And it kind of confirms, if you're a Carolina Panthers fan, you probably can look at the roster and look at how it's going. Brian Burns, they're going to be able to afford him. Just looking, from, whatever. I can't talk. I had a saying in my head and then I messed it up in my head, so I can't talk. So that's got to be exciting, if you're a fan there. But overall, you look at the cornerbacks, like you said, they bolstered him up. They also brought in, AJ Bouye, who was off a bad year with the Broncos, but you know what? I've seen at least one player. I've seen at least one veteran who came off a really bad year do well the next year, and that was Rhodes, another Florida Stater who came from the Vikings, had a terrible year with the Vikings, went to the Colts last year and did really well. AJ Bouye, it wasn't that long ago that he was a part of the best duo of corners in the league, in my opinion, when he was paired up with Ramsey. That was just a ridiculously good duo. So we'll see what happens there. Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think this team, though, it does run through the offense, and I'm really high on Terrace Marshall. I think he's going to do well. I have a video. If you haven't watched it, go watch the video where I talk about how he's going to fit in that offense and what I expect. You hit the nail on the head. I don't really need to repeat what you said there with Sam Darnold. I absolutely agree. I think he is. I think he is going to be a big part of this offense. And really, that's where I want to go next, is the quarterback, but more looking at it from a managerial sense of, okay, they bring in Bridgewater. They spent a good bit of money on Bridgewater. They're paying him to play in Denver right now. They were the guys who
gave him the shot, yeah.
They gave him a good piece of money, and then they trade for Sam Darnold. You send all those picks away, sign his 5th-year option, and I guarantee you, if it doesn't work out after 1 year, they'll be gone. They are aggressively attacking the quarterback position every year. Obviously, there was all the rumors that they wanted to trade up. They couldn't get a deal done there to trade up to get a guy that I think they felt like they really needed. Obviously, they didn't feel like Fields was the guy because he was available to them. They had Sam Darnold at this point too. But I really believe like if they really liked Fields, they might have gotten him.
I'm totally with you on that. They had a guy in this class
they wanted.
Yeah. I mean, Darnold, while both of us believe in him, he was not the immediate fix because when draft night came around, it was regardless of Darnold or whatnot.
Yeah.
I still thought they were going to take Fields. I thought that there was a chance. I don't know if it was Wilson. I don't know what they were expecting to happen draft night, but they had a guy that they were willing to make that move for.
And then when they traded for Darnold, they're accepting like, okay, that guy's not going to be there. I do think it was Wilson, actually. I really do. I think that was probably the goal. So I'm excited about that. You get this owner who's coming from the Steelers organization, and the Steelers have been pretty consistent at quarterback there. I mean, as long as I can remember. I mean, you go from Bradshaw to whoever was after Bradshaw to Roethlisberger. I mean, obviously, I'm sure I'm missing something there, but I mean, having Roethlisberger as your cornerstone has really, was a big part of the Steelers' success for all those years, and then everything else builds around it. And I think that's
able to
knowing
find that quarterback that can last you for some of those other guys like Big Ben 15 plus, but 10 to 15 year run.
Yeah.
That is like unprecedented. That is what the Panthers are doing. And that's why I think that they're primed and ready with how they've built themselves off of this. Like you said, they picked up Darnold's 5th year option. If it doesn't happen this go around, they're going to keep aggressively pursuing. I think we're seeing all the teams in the NFL constantly this turnover, if it's not the guy, they're not going to hold on to the guy. They're going to move on. They're going to keep taking their shots. And everybody out there has to find a 1 through 10 quarterback.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of guys, 11, 12, 13, 14, that should belong in that top 10 typically. But it's just such a competitive field right now out there when it comes to just overall quarterback play.
Yeah.
And everyone's trying to get the best one.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, it's across the board. If you don't have a top 10, your fan base wants a better one. And I think we've seen enough of.
That's the reason why you don't win.
Exactly.
Is the quarterback.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. And when you look at the quarterback, I do think with Sam Darnold, we're going to get more plays down the field. If you look at Bridgewater, look, I was never really in on Bridgewater. I remember doing a film study video early on last season and watching. I was like, okay, I'm out. I'm good. I believed that was all he had, and he was a backup after watching like one game of film. I think it was versus the Raiders or something. I was out. But 28% of the Panthers' pass attempts traveled just 10 yards, right? Or, traveled beyond 10 yards. Like that number needs to be higher. And I think with Sam Darnold, it will be. I think overall, Sam Darnold is a huge improvement. I think they got better with their wide receivers. I really do. As much as I like Curtis Samuel, I do think Terrace Marshall will be an upgrade at that position as a third wide receiver. They already have 2 really good ones. I think this offense is going to be I think this offense is going to be really good. I don't think there's any other way to say it. You mentioned at the beginning, like, I'm really high on this team. I am. I think, my projection does not match how high I am. Looking at now, I have them at 9 and 8. I wanted to give them 12, but I had to like cut it down a little bit and be realistic and be somewhat like even killed.
They're shooting your shot, but then there's also
I had to be even killed a little bit.
In the current Super Bowl champion Buccaneers
exactly.
division, the Saints haven't gone anywhere.
Exactly. Yeah. So and that was certainly something I had to look at. But there are 2 teams that I was coming into this season that didn't make the playoffs that I felt had a really good chance to surprise some people and be really good. After I've actually done research on both of them now for today, we're recording 8. We're talking about 8 teams today. One of them I feel even better about, and the other I feel a lot worse about. And the Panthers I feel a lot even better about. Just everything that I've seen, I feel like they are going the right direction. My only issue right now with their offense specifically is their left tackle. Right, they move on from Akun or he retires. Whatever happened there, he's gone. And then you don't. I don't know what to expect there. Cam Irving is injured. You have Dennis Daly. You have Tyler Moton, who might move over, but he's a guard, and they're trying to move him over to tackle. So you don't really know what's going to happen there. So like one hole that I really see like as an issue. Again, that's manageable. You said overall their offensive line is good, and it is. Overall, it is good. I do have a question about that one specific position. Let's move on. Let's talk about their free agency here, because I really liked what they did in free agency. They grabbed a combination of really good starters, solid starters, and really high level capable backups. Cam Irving, the guy that grabbed. I think that's a good pick. Even if he does end up being your backup swing tackle, I think that's a pretty solid guy. Hassan Reddick, I loved bringing him in. Brought him in for a 1-year deal. I wanted the Dolphins to give him big money. I believed it after last year that he made the position move to what his natural position was out of college, and he dominated last year. And I mean, it's not his fault. He's playing out of position for 2 years, 3 years, whatever it was. Just high level, competent starters. Pat Elfine is a big hit. They really did spend some money on that offensive line. I think that helps. And their losses minimal. Curtis Samuel's the biggest one, but I think they replaced that in the draft. Nobody else here that I'm really losing a whole lot of sleep over. Where are you at with this?
No, I think that they did a good job trying to prep up this offensive line. That's what kept making me think that there was another quarterback move coming behind the curtain overall. But now, Sam Darnold's the guy. It's a fresh breath for him, I'm sure, to get away from that just hostile, toxic New York media, especially having to be a team in New York and have some poor play where it's been, because there are times where it is Sam Darnold's, own doing when it comes to some of the.
Yeah, he wasn't perfect. I don't think anybody would argue that.
By any means, but I definitely think that he was not given the right tools in the first place to do that. And I think it's just misfortunate, because I know we're going to talk about the Jets in a later pod, but I do think that the Jets now are starting to get that infrastructure down to have a Sam Darnold type quarterback. It just sucks because you see it so many times where the guy has tried so many as a quarterback, where it was just nothing he could do all by himself. And then by the time the team gets good for him, ready to go, it reminds me, going back to Carolina Panthers, of a Cam Newton. They had a Cam Newton prime where there was a lot of other pieces lacking around him. And Cam Newton's physical ability alone, was enough to propel some of these average pieces to become good and great pieces at that. And then by the time that I think the Carolina Panthers finally got their infrastructure right, Cam's window had closed.
Yeah, no, I really do agree with that. And we always talk about the draft as a lottery pick, right? Like, you're just getting lottery tickets. It's kind of the same for the players too when you think about it. I mean, Sam Darnold was drafted in the exact same spot that the Colts were. The Colts traded back. Yeah. The lottery of it all is, imagine if the Colts had a heads up that they weren't sure what what's his name wanted.
If there was a chance that they knew Luck was.
Yeah, imagine if they had a little bit of a head start on that bombshell. The Colts probably don't trade back, and they probably take Sam Darnold, and then Sam Darnold automatically is in a significantly better spot. He never has to meet Adam Gase. I mean, like, there's some good things that could have gone. Like, that's and then
Adam Gase on the other side, is a big one too.
On the other side, like, imagine if he was with the Browns. Like, I really believe, look how good the Browns are. I really believe he would have a different career. I think he has the talent. I think it was at least similar talent coming out. Obviously, they liked Baker more, but I think it was similar. I think there's some good things there. Yeah, it is a crapshoot for both sides.
Let's go back to that draft, since you mentioned that, and Sam Darnold was the better prospect coming out in a lot of people's minds over Baker.
He was the favorite.
I really
throughout
liked
the
Baker,
process.
but exactly, the Baker pick was jaw-dropping. Yep. It was shocking to see that happen.
We had a heads up, and I remember making a bet with you, and I was like, "This is bullshit. They're trying to smoke screen." I thought it was all crap. There's no way they're going to take Sam Darnold over Baker. I liked Baker. I certainly thought he deserved to be a first round pick. Thought he even deserved to be top 10. Did not expect him to be number 1 over a Sam Darnold type of thing. And granted, hindsight's 2020.
The whole point being is that Sam Darnold had the raw tools, and even beyond that, almost they were. Early on, I remember a few guys comparing him to some of the greats of greats coming out whenever it came to overall scouting about how good he was. I hope that he can just keep those tools and use them around, because there's no excuses now.
So let me ask you this, because I'm going back to the offseason at a glance questions, and I wrote all these questions, and I thought this was an interesting one. I'd love to hear your take. Joe Brady, is he a head coach in 2022 if this offense does well?
Yeah. I think the offense. I think the offense will do well, and it's only going to bolster up that resume even more. Yeah. I thought Brady would maybe not due for the jump at that point after that LSU season, but I have seen less qualified guys get the job.
Yeah.
Where I felt like, yes, I still wouldn't have wanted him to be a head coach, but I would have understood. Okay, this is how he got the job.
I do think I completely agree. I think he was in one of those situations. He probably could have gone and been the head coach of the Texans or something.
Yes.
Like the Texans were looking for anybody, right? They probably could have gotten, like if Joe Brady wanted to, he probably could have gotten that job. Nobody wanted that job though. I agree. Joe Brady's in the right spot, and with this offense, with the weapons he has, if he is what I kind of think he is, I do think he's a special play caller and deserves to be in that conversation for a young offensive mind type of guy. He can kind of bide his time and wait for the right opportunity. It might be this year, it might be the year after. But
I hope it's the year after when Mike Zimmer gets fired.
Exactly. I have some hot takes there.
That'd be cool.
But yeah, like that's my thing is like, man, if he's looking at the open positions next year, he might be in a position where he can just be like, I'll wait another year. I'm good. Like this is a good team. You're saying
almost pull a Josh McDaniels,
exactly.
Which we don't even know. About to say we don't even know if that's a thing in his head. He might be saying just to take the keys where he's at.
I think at this point he's the successor to Belichick.
Got to be because of the jobs that he's passed up.
Exactly. Yeah. He's passed up on some solid jobs. So I thought that was interesting. I think this team can take the next step. I think their young roster is very good. I do think they win the playoffs. I do think they go to the playoffs. At 9-8, maybe my record prediction doesn't account for that, but I think they're better than my record prediction suggests. Yeah. I think they're a really good football team. I think they were, they were unlucky with fumbles, 28th in the NFL. They were unlucky with opponents' field goals, 31st in the NFL above expected. The opponents made every single field goal except for 2 last year. That doesn't really happen. Like things like that do kind of go back to the median a little bit, and like they were the other part of it, and something that we haven't even mentioned yet. They were in 11 one-score games. They won 3 of them, and a lot of that is Bridgewater.
Competitive last year.
Yeah, they were consistently right on the cusp. And hey, yeah, I think that's a really good place to be when you're a young football team. And the other part, let's pull up the teams they have to play next year and their predicted schedule strength. It's average. It is like there's nothing special there, but it's not a bad schedule at all. But the first 3 weeks, they should come out of the first 3 weeks going 2-3 or 2-1. Excuse me. Confidence.
Well, I would go ahead and say look at the first 5 weeks, and I would say 3-2.
Yeah,
I think that they're 3-2,
and that's confidence. That is building up your confidence for a young team. I think that's really important. I think I always talk about having an easy schedule early and how important I think that is for momentum and for these guys. And I think it's even more so for a young football team. And this is a very young defense, especially, but a young football team in general.
No, I think they're gonna have to get this momentum going early because they close out the year with the Bucs in 3 weeks. They play the Bucs, so yeah. I think it's week that would be
sucks.
16, and they have 17 and 18. Yeah, so
that's gonna be weird.
Bills, Bucs, Saints, Bucs. That's brutal.
Yeah, that's not easy. Let's close it out. Let's quickly talk about their draft. Got J.C. Horn in the first. I know you really liked that.
Yeah.
Terrace Marshall in the second was certainly a guy that I thought. I mean, they did a really good job with that, getting Terrace Marshall late in the second. That was a really good draft. Tommy Tremble. I'm not as big on Chuba Hubbard, but to be the backup, I don't really have an issue with it behind Christian McCaffrey, and they did need that. Obviously, Mike Davis going to. Division rival over there. I love Davion Nixon in the fifth. He's like one of those guys, and he has been flashing in camp. I was listening to a Carolina fan podcast, and they were talking about him. That's their draft. Any guys you really want to touch on?
Mine was Deontay Brown and Shi Smith. That 6th round, I think they have one of the best. I'm serious. Shi Smith is one of my favorite early prospects coming out of South Carolina. Had some injury concerns early on, but he is electric. He pops. I know it's going to be hard to find a realm to get him working early on into this thing. Same for Deontay Brown, though. Deontay Brown is a huge physical big body boy out of Alabama.
Yeah, get an Alabama offensive lineman in the 6th.
You can't go wrong.
I'll take it. Yeah, even if he doesn't have the great measurables or whatever. Last thing I do want to talk about with their draft and something that was interesting to me, I'm just going to put on the board their trades, right? I thought they did a really, really good job of moving down and collecting capital. That's what you're supposed to do when you're a team like the Carolina Panthers. Getting 3 picks for 1 in the 4th round from from the Titans, getting 3 picks for 1 in the 3rd round from the Texans,
amazing deal from
getting 2 picks, in the trade for the Eagles, consistently traded down twice in the 2nd and still landing Terrace Marshall. That is insane. Just collecting so many picks. Imagine if you said, oh, you can get Terrace Marshall, Tommy Tremble, Shi Smith, and another pick that ended up being traded, all for your 2nd round pick. Like, that's ridiculous amount of value. Last little thing, we don't usually talk about draft day trades on this pod, but I thought it was interesting, and I just want to speak to the intelligence of the staff. I really think their GM and what they're doing up there from a managerial standpoint is really, really high level stuff, and I think they're showing you how to rebuild. I think they're doing a really good job of that.
Yeah, if you're trying to rebuild and find diamonds in the rough, you need as many shots at those diamonds as you can take.
Especially if you're rebuilding without all the picks. Like the Dolphins are showing you how to rebuild if you have a shit ton of capital. But the Panthers are showing you how to rebuild if you didn't have a left tackle get traded for 7 million picks.
Exactly.
So I think that's really good. I think that's enough on the Panthers. Do you have anything else you want to say?
I think we covered it.
We're good. We'll move on to the Saints. Same story. Give me your raw reaction to the Saints while I'm pulling up some stuff here.
In my head, I'm a lot harder on the Saints than what a lot of people are.
Yeah, I noticed your rankings.
And it bothers me too by saying that, because I didn't think that much of Drew Brees for the past few years. I really didn't. I watched those games and I knew in areas where he was holding them back, but I don't know if I'm a full-on believer in Jameis yet. I know he can throw the ball. I know he can sling it, but I also know, with that being said, he can keep both teams in the game a lot. They have a very good defense. I like their weapons. I will say this, though. Alvin Kamara, when it comes to a fantasy production and overall NFL production, was nowhere near the guy that he was with Brees off the field. Minimal usage. Minimal.
Well, I'll give you that. I think a lot of his production came from Michael Thomas not being there, and they really didn't. When Michael Thomas was down, Emmanuel Sanders, was in and out of the lineup. You had a situation where they didn't really have a lot of good depth at the wide receiver, and they still really don't, to be totally honest.
No, they don't. They
ended up relying on Alvin Kamara as your only weapon offensively, really. So yeah, I get what you're saying there, but I think a lot of his production really this year, it came from the lack of a Michael Thomas more than anything. Like his ridiculous fantasy stats, I guess is what I'm talking about. And I think that will continue even with Michael Thomas on the field, because he is the second best option. Like they let go of Emmanuel Sanders. They didn't really replace him. And Emmanuel Sanders, he's been on 4 teams in 3 years for a reason. But he certainly was a capable number 2 when he was on the field. So I didn't have an issue with that at all.
If anyone wants an absolute stud of a sleeper, and I have been hearing amazing reviews from him out of camp, especially with the absence of Michael Thomas, is Marquez Callaway.
Yeah.
They're saying that Marquez Callaway at times has stepped up and really asserted himself into that X or wide receiver 1 role.
Nice.
Where I thought that he could grow into that at some point. Now, of course, Michael Thomas, we still got to see how all that drama unfolds and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But I'm also glad you pulled up the draft. I'm not a big fan of their draft. I don't think that they drafted that well.
Yeah, let's go there. I'll put that up now.
I trust Sean Payton a lot. I trust his ability to coach. I put him up there in the top 5 coaching tree, to where as I view a Mike Tomlin who can take a step back year, I guess, where it's supposed to be a step back, but still have a competitive product. I know this team is still going to be a competitive product. You still have Cam Jordan. You still have DeMario Davis and Marshawn Lattimore. It's Lattimore. Yeah. I don't know why the way that you build the defense, that's what I like. They have it matched off all the levels right there. I'm just worried about this offense a lot. I really am.
Okay, so I think I can change your mind. Let's stick on the draft just for a second. Yeah. Peyton Turner was the shock of the first round. Really, there's always one. I know we did our live stream, and we did our live stream, and it was one of those things where it's like, okay, we want to get everybody. We do not want to not have a graphic, because we're only doing the first round, right? So we did damn near 60 graphics for guys. Most of them went second, third round, but Peyton Turner was not on that list, and he was the only guy we didn't have a graphic for. The weirdest part was the fact that you had Jason Away go to the Ravens 31. You had Joe Tryon go to the Bucks, both of which are killing it.
Names that we had heard,
bigger names in the same position that I think were far and away the better prospect. Look, they look at their own thing. They're supposed to be smarter than us, and certainly probably are. So I say probably. Like, what kind of ego is that? But yeah, so whatever. That was a weird one. Pete Warner, a little bit of a surprise in the second. Although I guess, when you get into the late second, you're kind of splitting hairs a little bit. I thought Paulson Adebo, he was the guy I thought would go in the second. I mean, and out of Stanford, that was probably I thought their best pick and a big need. If he could step up, that would be huge for them because they don't really have a proven commodity opposite
Outside
Lattimore.
of Lattimore, it gets ugly quick, and they lost a lot.
And Lattimore really has not performed as well as we'd like to say. It has not been as pretty as it was his rookie year. His rookie year was ridiculous. Yeah. It's dropped off since then, and for whatever reason. But yeah, I absolutely agree. Let me try and change your mind. Obviously, Drew Brees retires. Listen, over the last 2 seasons, they're 8-1 without Drew Brees. Sean Payton, you really look at
that's why he's up there.
Yeah, they were one of the healthier teams in the NFL, and I was kind of surprised by that. I think they had a pretty healthy season overall, but they lost at key positions like wide receiver, quarterback, and those were big pieces to lose, especially when Michael Thomas is your kind of all your passing offense at the wide receiver position. They lost those pieces, and Sean Payton was still able to produce. I thought, you look at Jameis Winston, he did come in and perform well that one game. And then obviously they gave the reins over to Taysom, but that was because Sean Payton had made a promise to Taysom that if something like that had happened,
get his opportunity.
He would get the second. Yeah. So that that was something I don't think we were aware of. I remember that offseason being on this pod, or excuse me, that week after Drew Brees got hurt, being on this pod and saying there's no way they start Taysom. It's got to be Jameis. They're holding their cards close to their chest just to mess with him. And I was totally wrong. Taysom goes 4-1 though. In 4 games without Drew Brees.
They were not pretty games though.
Okay, and I get that, but a lot of that I do think is Taysom. I think this could be a team that does both quarterbacks, like significantly more than we've ever really seen in the NFL before. Sean Payton to me is enough to with the overall team that they have. Offensively, they do have some good weapons. They still have a great offensive line, which is a big piece of it. And defensively, we're going to talk about some of their losses. I am certainly questioning it, and I do think they have a worse year than they did last year. But Sean Payton to me is worth enough wins that he's going to figure out with Jameis and with Taysom, and I do think they have the infrastructure on that offense to. And also, we've had Taysom. He's had Taysom as a backup for a long time. He's been tinkering with play calls when Drew Brees retires for a long time and schemes and things like that.
He's known the end's been in sight.
Yeah, I do think there's a plan in place that's been in place for more than just this offseason a little bit. I'm actually kind of excited to see how the Saints team works. I understand it's kind of a gamble for me to say, just looking at key numbers, I have them at 11-6. You have them at 8-9.
It's hard to imagine 11 with the quarterback change.
Yeah, I have them at 11. I feel good about it. I really do. I feel good about 10 or more. I feel they do definitely hit double digits. They're just too good of a football team, top to bottom.
Overall, they are, and when you add in the coach, yes. And that's the thing, whenever I was doing the wins and losses, I know all of the crap that I have talked about Drew Brees and all of his legacy and as good as he has been. I'm happy as a Vikings fan whenever we've faced him in the playoffs, as it's the past few times, because his inability to push the ball down the field is one of the main reasons that we're able to stay in. A lot of other teams, for that matter, are able to stay in games. So, I would think that losing Brees and adding Winston, we're 2 years removed from Winston leading the league in passing yards. Give it that, yes, he had the other stat to go along with it. I think it was close to 40 interceptions.
It was 30. It was 30.
30? Okay.
Exactly
so
30,
a little bit, 30. That's
33
that's
touchdowns, 30 interceptions.
That's a lot, but still was able to do that.
Yeah, so I say all that, and then I do have some stats to back it up here. First of all, you did mention it wasn't pretty with Taysom Hill. You're absolutely right. They scored 24 fewer points in 3 of those 4 games. So and you look at the 13 games that Brees started last year, they only did that 11. They scored more than 24 points 11 times.
That's electric.
So that tells you the difference in what their offense is able to produce. But also, he is coming in mid-season. I think there's certainly some holes you can poke in that stat, but it's enough to say, it was not as pretty as it was with Drew Brees. I'm not sitting here saying that Taysom Hill's a star. I don't think he is the star. I think he's a really, really, unique piece that you can put in 5. I'll say as many as 5 to 10 plays a game for different reasons at quarterback position. I do think Jameis Winston is the starter. Jameis Winston still does have a lot of talent. I will say, you look at Jameis Winston. Let's talk about interception rate. He was 54th out of 57 over the last 5 years in interception rate with a minimum of 400 attempts.
Gunslinger mentality.
Yeah, exactly. 3.61% interception rate. That's really high. Drew Brees, 1.5, ninth in the NFL over the past 5 years. So that just shows you like what they're used to. The Saints don't throw interceptions. Like that's not really like that. That's not what you want to see.
Very efficient team.
Exactly. And, yeah, absolutely. And so I absolutely get what you're saying. To me, and this is a hot take, and this is going to go a little bit off of how we usually do this. But I was thinking about this when I was doing the research, and I want to bring it up to you and see what you thought. The Saints and the Ravens feel similar to me. For one reason, like they just feel like the team that they're gonna get to the playoffs. They're gonna be a pain in the ass in the regular season. They're probably gonna win 10 games, but then they're gonna get to the playoffs, play a team that is has the Jimmy and Joes, I guess, from a talent perspective, and lose first, second, third round of the playoffs.
That's fair. I put the Ravens ahead of the Saints. So if I were to rank it in like a hierarchy, I do think that the Ravens, while they may not be, I guess, cemented Super Bowl threats, I keep the Saints out. I have the Saints out.
Okay, so what I'm saying,
I think that there's a world where the Saints miss the playoffs.
See, and I get, well, yeah, you put them 8-9, you think they're gonna miss the playoffs, I guess. And I guess what I'm saying is like with the Ravens specifically, you have the Lamar Jackson and all these things and the way they play, and you absolutely destroy the average to bad teams in the NFL, and you beat the good teams too from time to time. But I feel like they get to the playoffs and they face a team that has the speed at linebacker to at least contain Lamar at times. They have there's
a method to the shutdown of both of them.
They have the front seven to make it really difficult for the Ravens, and they end up losing. Like they lost to the Titans 2 years ago in the playoffs. They lost last year. I don't remember who they played, but they lost to somebody.
It was Buffalo, right?
I think it was Buffalo. Yeah. So and again, that's kind of the same thing. I feel like you play one of the elite teams. Like I don't know. That's just, to me, there's a connection there. And yeah, I'm still higher on the Saints as a team that is still going to be competitive this year. I think they're going to surprise some people.
You surprised me with that by saying that the Saints are still going to be good, and I know how high you are on the Carolina Panthers. So, like, I thought if you were going to rank the division for me, you would go Buccaneers, Panthers, Saints, Falcons. But right now, you're Buccaneers, Saints, Panthers.
Yeah, I'm totally. Yeah,
I would be the other.
Yeah.
It would sound like it would be the other way though, because you like the Panthers a lot.
Yeah, I do like the Panthers a lot. I have the Bucks winning the same amount of games as the Saints, though.
Oh my God!
Yeah, I do. I have them winning 11 games too.
Oh my God! Okay, can we close the book on the Saints? Are we done? Can we get to that book?
We're not done. We got to talk about the free agency.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, totally.
You're gonna shit on me.
I'm paying attention.
All right, so we're gonna talk about some big losses. Defensive line, lose Trey Hendrickson, lose Malcolm Brown. These were guys that had a lot of snaps last year, and then obviously Janoris Jenkins was a big loss. This is an old graphic. Kwan Alexander actually came back in free agency, so that just happened fairly recently. So he is back, but certainly some big losses that doesn't feel like they replaced in free agency because they couldn't. They had a really tight free agency.
Their books were
tight. Yeah, and Drew Brees is a big part of that. They're going to be able to let that go in a couple years, or I would think by next year. It's going to be the same thing as the Patriots. Like the Patriots had no money the year that Tom Brady left last year, and like they really couldn't do anything. They had a bad football team, still able to win 7 games. I would argue that was a feat for the roster they had. And then this year they had all the money in the world. They spent the most of free agency. They were able to get that off the books. Exactly. So I think that'll be a similar thing for the Saints, and the Saints are going to have to ride the storm, but they do have a better team in general. I think bring back all 5 starters on offensive line, things like that. All right, we'll close the book. You want to shit on me with the Bucks now, huh?
Let's just get to the Bucks.
Do you want to just take a pause and just shit on me for a second? That's fine.
No,
I'm not.
Just get to the Buccaneers.
All right,
let's get to the 11-win Buccaneers.
Shut up.
The 11-win Super Bowl champion who brought back 22 of 22 starters, Buccaneers. That's all I want to do. I just want to talk.
We're going to talk Falcons first.
No, we're not. No, you can't do that to me. Fuck the Falcons.
Damn it, the Bucks really are next in our rotation. All right,
Tampa Bay time. Tampa Tom.
All right, give me your raw reaction to the Buccaneers.
I don't want my raw reaction. I need it yours, damn it.
You want my raw reaction? Before we get into the stats, you want my raw reaction?
Yes.
In the NFL, we always talk about if you don't get better, you get worse. Every single year, we talk about No, I get it. They're the Super Bowl champs. They won a lot of games, but come on, man, they beat the Washingtons by 1 score, and Heineke was playing, right? Like it was close. close. The next week, Tom Brady throws 2 interceptions in the NFC Championship. Honestly, Aaron Rodgers shit the bed. He should have won that game. Like, he should have. But Tom Brady throws 2 interceptions. If that interception... no, seriously.
I'm listening.
Okay,
Good, bro.
Look, let's put it this way. If Aaron Rodgers completes the pass on 3rd down for a touchdown in that NFC Championship game, we are looking at the Bucs completely differently.
Listen,
we are. It's not even a doubt. It's not a question. The entire framework of how we discuss the Buccaneers completely changes. I get they won the Super Bowl. They're an awesome football team. I'm talking about them as one of the better teams in the NFL. I don't have a lot of teams winning 11 games or more. So I'm not shitting on them. I'm not saying they're going to be a bad football team, but to just automatically say, oh, they brought everybody back, so they're going to win the Super Bowl again, like, that's stupid. That is antiquated thinking. It is not the way we should approach this subject. I just don't believe so.
Let me tell you how I'm going to approach this subject.
Okay.
They are going back. They are winning this division, and yes, they are, I think, by far the best team in the NFC. I don't think there is a team that can get close to their heels right now.
I don't think they're by far the best team in the NFC.
I think when you look at the AFC, hierarchy style, you have the Ravens, the Browns, the Bills, the Chiefs, and Titans-ish. Nah, Titans kind of out right now. But so you have 4 big dogs. I think when I look at the NFC, you have the Packers with Aaron Rodgers, so I always think that they can be competitive and up there. But I think that the Bucs are just a hair above everyone else in the NFC.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
I think they had a really good draft. I really like what they did, bringing everybody back. I don't think you can go wrong by doing that. Yes, you are right when it comes down to how few moments, if you were to and you can say that honestly for Tom Brady's career. There's a lot of times that if you were to go back and change
one thing.
You give me 6 plays that I can change to go either other way. I can take 6 rings.
Yeah.
I can take away 6 rings. That's just how it is. But I don't want to discredit Tom. I used to do that a lot.
No, I know
you're not either.
Once.
I'm saying to a big argument that's a thought to everyone out there, an entire fan base of people who don't like Tom Brady just because it's the popular thing to not like him. Yes, and going into this playoffs, if they lose to Washington,
just pause real quick.
You're good.
There, as somebody who was a critic of Tom Brady for a long time, it's not the popular thing. You get shit on a lot.
You can't do it.
It's not popular.
It's just not it anymore.
You said it's the popular thing. It's not.
No, I just
because I've been unpopular with it.
I think there's a majority of people, especially people here in Tennessee, because y'all are just riding on Peyton Manning's forehead, that just do not like Tom Brady at all. Y'all have a problem with the man. I don't know what
Dolphins fan. Give me a break.
It's okay. You have to deal with that. The reign of terror for however long it was.
20 goddamn years, and we got to play him again.
So I think it's coming. Yeah, I think it's still here. This is a team, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown. When you evaluate that wide receiver room alone, that speaks for itself. I'm not going to sit here and write home about Gronk. You know, Gronk showed up in the Super Bowl. I think Gronk is more valuable when it comes to his blocking and what he's able to do for that.
But tight end core as a whole, O.J. Howard, Bray, so it's a good tight end core for sure.
I still think that they're lacking in the running back room department and offensive line. Tristan Wirfs
killed it.
It's insane to think about that. That defense, Levante David, help me out. Devin White. It's Devin White, correct?
Devin White, their linebackers are awesome. Shaq Barrett, JPP, and Joe Tryon apparently is killing it in camp, so he's the rookie.
You have the Auburn boys up there at corner, Carlton Davis and Jamel
They
Dean.
outperformed every expectation I had for them.
I just don't see a weak spot when I look at this team.
I get it, and maybe I could go back and I could easily go back and find them another win and give them the favorite in the division. And honestly, they are the favorite in the division. I get that. So look, they were the healthiest team in 2020 last year. Did not have a lot of injuries. Obviously, you don't. If you're just like a casual fan, you think about the Bucs. Oh well, Chris Godwin had some injury issues. Well, every team has injury issues, but like overall, from top to bottom, they were the healthiest team. So that's a positive. I did think it was interesting. This is a weird stat, and I don't give it a lot of credence, but I did think it was interesting. I wanted to put it out there. 32nd in Football Outsiders variance metric last year, right? So that's basically from a game to game perspective, the Bucs' performance was the most volatile in the NFL. So that's interesting.
Showing up and being a different team each week.
Yes, exactly.
Which my wallet fucking felt that whenever I was gambling on the Bucs every week.
Yes.
And I'd be like, man, they're going to really put it to the New York Giants this week.
I completely agree. Like
trust me, I know what you're saying.
I read that stat and I was like, okay, yeah, I get that. I feel that. Like I felt that last year.
I felt that in my heart, having to sit there and watch just a crap show, $100-something on the money line. Come on.
Tell the story real quick.
I don't want to.
You gotta tell it.
I thought the Buccaneers were going to just put it to them. I mean, like shove it down their throat to the New York Giants.
Sunday night football. Giants had some injuries all over the field. Bucks were relatively healthy. There was no reason the Bucks still lost that game.
The Bucks were already rolling. They should have come in and taken care of that game, and I don't know what it was. I don't know what the hell happened. Evan Ingram was actually Evan Ingram for just a millisecond, for 2 quarters or so. And yeah, I lost $100 on that. Yeah. And I was very upset with the Buccaneers on that. But I still think that they're...
Yeah, to get back to your point, they have the 5th easiest schedule in the NFL. I don't know how you win the Super Bowl and you get the 5th easiest. Well, I do know how. You don't win the division, get in a wild card, and then run it. That's how you get it. Then you get to play the Dolphins. That's the division they get to play. So Jets Dolphins is fairly, so easy. That's wild, isn't it? Like I guess
they play the Giants again.
Yeah, they play the Giants. They play the Giants again. When I saw we had to play the Bucks, I was so mad. We got 1 year without playing Tom Brady, and now we're back at it again.
Yeah,
just sucks.
It's like, hey, no choice.
Also interesting, Bucks went 0-4 against teams with run defenses that ranked inside the top 15 last year. That was, I thought, very interesting to me. And granted, I do think they'll be throwing the ball more. We saw it in the second half of the season where they kind of stopped running the ball on first down as much and just started airing it out. You have arguably the best top to bottom wide receiver core in the NFL. I mean, I certainly think there's an argument to be had there. You have the greatest quarterback of all time. Why wouldn't you just be airing it out?
They played wildly different in the playoffs versus regular season. They did.
And last thing I really want to mention before we get to the last couple of things and move on from the Bucks, I was wrong. I was dead wrong with the way they would use Tom Brady airing the ball out. I mean, he threw it down the field, and he still had an arm to get it down the field. That was my biggest question, and something that I thought, there was no doubt in my mind that the Buccaneers were going to have to change the way they played offense from a schematic standpoint to match what Tom Brady is able to do.
Kind of like the Saints have had to do with Breeze.
And they didn't do it, and Tom Brady rose to the occasion, and it was just crazy. It's like, okay, we never really saw you do that with the Patriots the last 3 years, but now you're on the Bucs team, and you're just airing it out. Amazing. I was absolutely wrong on that. Just kudos to Tom Brady and your what?
After the end of the Patriots little run right here, and you started to kind of connect some dots about, there's a throw right there that Tom kind of looked like that ball kind of wobbled a little bit in areas where it used to not. Is he losing the arm strength? And then I think I'm pretty certain that it was week 1 was the Buccaneers versus the Saints, and Brady opened up with 2 pick sixes in the first half.
I forgot about that.
And the narrative, I don't remember the announcer at the time, but I just remember them talking about, is this it? Is this like having to watch a childhood hero or one of these legends of the game have to go through that? People had already started writing them. I mean, I feel like we've been ready to close the book on Brady for a long time. And, of course, he's been around forever.
I actually remember being in middle school and looking up his age to see how long he had. I remember looking, it was 36 or something. Seriously, I very clearly remember this. So yeah, I'm 25. Yeah. It would have been about 10 years ago. I looked it up. He would have been 36, whatever it was. And thinking, okay, we only have a couple more years before he'll retire, right? But we got to remember back then it was the Packers dude, all of that stuff was going on. He was hitting 40 and that seemed to be the number, right?
Yeah.
Now 45 is the number.
Talking about with Brett, yeah.
With Brett, yeah. So that's the time period we were talking about.
So Calvin Johnson just got put into the Hall of Fame. He got drafted in Brady's 7th season. Calvin Johnson retired and is now in the Hall of Fame. And Brady just won a Super Bowl.
That is so fucking wild. That's just crazy.
Brady has 3 different Hall of Fame careers, in my opinion. You have the first 01 to 04 Patriots where he had 3 Super Bowls. He has all those accolades. I think there's an MVP in there. You have that middle Patriots dynasty where there is 2 more Super Bowls, or three more.
Okay.
And then you have this last little run from the last few years of the Patriots with him getting all the final numbers overall, and then the Super Bowl with the Bucs. I think he has 3 different Super Bowl Hall of Fame careers.
Wow.
That's
crazy to think about. That's really interesting. Yeah.
Is insane. And I think that they're still going to be doing it this year. Even better, honestly.
And also, I just think it's funny because you were talking about the Saints, right? Yeah. The Saints only had 2 games where they played with Drew Brees, Michael Thomas, and Emmanuel Sanders all on the field at the same time. Both games were against the Bucks, and both were wins.
They were the Bucks' kryptonite. Did they face each other in the playoffs?
Yeah, they beat them in the playoffs. Yeah, the Bucks,
because it was third time's the charm kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The Bucks beat the Saints in the playoffs. It was a big game, and
Mike Evans had to step up over Lattimore because Lattimore was making him his bitch for a while.
But the Saints were hurting. Like they didn't have a lot of they lost a lot of their big pieces there. I don't think Michael Thomas was there, and I think that was a big part of that game. Anyway, so we'll get back to the Bucks there. Yeah. Last stat that I'll give you. I know I already said that, but one more. Bucks only face 5 teams with the same starting quarterback from 2020. That is so wild. Now 6 games because we're counting Falcons twice. 5 teams, but that does also include Cam Newton from last year and Tua Tagovailoa, who split time. Like those are included in those 5 teams. That is ridiculous. Just going back to their schedule, and put that back on the board.
Trust me, there are some undertones here to think about how. And it's that's why I brought up Brady's entire career, because you think that there's just a lot of different lucky little things that slowly add up over time.
Wow.
But at the end of the day, he got it. Yeah,
exactly. So I don't know. I thought that was a weird, crazy stat. Let's pull up their. Have we done free agency yet? Did we do that yet?
No, we didn't do free agency or draft. I don't think they added anybody other than just some re-signs.
Yeah. So real quick on free agency, lost next to nobody, all re-signs. Look at that list of re-signs. That is just absolutely crazy to me. And then
I don't know how they're able to budget it.
Yeah, I don't get it. Well, they're going to be screwed in a couple years.
That's what it is.
They went all in. Yeah. I mean that's the only way. They're backloading everything. That's the only way you could possibly do this, especially in a year where the cap went down. Last thing with the draft, real quick, we talked about best player available, when we were doing the free agency thing, and you saw the last graphic where it said draft needs, there wasn't one. Joe Tryon in the first round, I think that was best player available. He's doing really well. I know I've mentioned that a handful of times, but he really is. Kyle Trask, I did not think was the best. I thought Kellen Mond was the better quarterback there, but I get it. Get a big, tall
Trask
pocket passer.
Gets to step into a very good spot.
Very good spot. Very, very fortunate for him to be able to sit behind Tom Brady, and that'll be cool to see. The rest of the draft, I don't have any big thoughts here. I don't know if you do.
I'm glad to see my Auburn boy get taken. KJ Britt.
Yeah.
Bruce Arians has come out and said that he is taking the second team defense, and he's the captain of that squad himself. So hopefully he can be a rotational piece somewhere there.
That's awesome.
Downhill hard hitter. You have a Levante David who's going to be out soon anyways.
Yeah. All right. I think that's all I have on the Bucks. Anywhere else you want to go with this?
Super Bowl for me. I see them losing to the Rams. I have the losing to the Rams in the championship.
I was like, you have some rule changes going on too.
But I have them at the championship.
And also, you said I was crazy. They're over under 11.5.
Yeah, no,
I put him at 11. Like I'm not fucking crazy for saying 11 and 6.
I don't think you are. You made me sound crazy for the Saints, though. The Saints was 9, and I had them at 8 and 9. You had the Saints.
We're way off on this division altogether, aren't we? Yeah, I might be too bullish on the Saints.
I might be too bullish on the Bucks, and I can admit to that. But I do think that I have the stuff to back the argument behind the Buccaneers' success.
Yeah, of course. I just my whole thing is
it's hard to put any team at 14-3.
Well, yeah, of course, but like my whole thing is we take the final result of the Super Bowl and we take the free agency and we say, well, they're going back. There's no way. And it's like, and I get that you add in the fact another year with Tom Brady. I get
Chiefs.
No, but they don't do that with the Chiefs because the Chiefs did it all year. The Chiefs were the same team. Like I get what you're saying with that.
Okay,
and I totally understand that
style of play. Yes,
but I mean, come on. Like at this point, especially at this point, the Chiefs are fairly like they're enshrined as one of the best teams in the NFL. They're not going anywhere with that title, right? Like
you think the Bucks do though? That defense,
is fucking awesome.
Alone, that defense, can
it's
win
ridiculous.
Those games.
But the thing for me is looking at the entire postseason as a whole. When you're playing the best teams in your division, theoretically, you had a tough game against Washington. You had a tough game against the Saints when they were undermanned, and realistically, you should have lost to the Packers. Okay. You throw 2 interceptions, you probably shouldn't lose to the Packers. The Packers blew that game.
So you can't discredit the Bucks because of the Packers fumbling the bag, though. And I think with Washington had a late surge that Tampa just didn't give a shit about. I really think so.
Okay.
Tampa was well in control of that game.
They did
control the game. Started playing hero ball, and yes, there was a time where it was like, oh God, if they get the ball back at this point, there is a chance, like technically. But I don't think there was ever a real fear.
I certainly get that. I'm not taking away. And
they dominated the Super Bowl.
They absolutely did.
Very boring.
I totally get that. It's just for me. I guess I try and fight back against the antiquated way of thinking of 1 + 1 = 2 when we're not looking at all the other things that go into it.
Super Bowl.
Exactly. Yeah, so I guess that's what I'm saying. Maybe I'm fighting against that narrative with my record prediction and kind of letting that seep in, which I shouldn't. So I'll give you that.
Like that in sports. Kevin Durant hit a 3-point, what we thought was a 3-point, but he wears a size 19 shoe. If he wears a size 17, the Nets beat the Bucks in this year's playoffs in Game 7, and we are talking by that much. Giannis gets his championship, the Nets fail as a super team. We're talking that much of a narrative. So trust me, I understand the whole thought process behind that. When we equate, oh my God, Kevin Durant couldn't finish that game off and couldn't be the GOAT. If we're that much of a difference, that much of a margin, it's GOAT versus not GOAT. It's wins versus loss. Trust me,
that's crazy. And just like you said,
it changes so quick.
You said it perfectly. I think 6 plays, and you can take away 6 Super Bowls.
Legitimately, yes, yeah.
And honestly, that might be fair to say about a lot of guys. Like, I mean, give me one play, I might be able to take away the Saints Super Bowl.
A lot of times, not even for the good players. I say it for the players who we never got to see pan out because the promise that we saw in college versus them landing in another spot where they maybe get caught a little bit more or they just have a few different plays. Herbert getting to light it up in the way that he has, I think that has already set his career on fire.
Yeah.
If he were to come out and maybe have 3 bad starts in a row, we're so quick to write him off. That's why I'm scared for guys like Tua.
Yeah.
When you have a bad start and a bad go at it, we are so quick nowadays in this day and age.
I'm a fan and I'm a bad fan with it. Like I'm already done with them.
Wrong. We all.
I'm already looking at like, okay, can we get Watson? That would be awesome. Okay, well, who's in the draft? Like I'm a bad fan. Like that's already what I'm thinking.
It's just the day and age in this NFL though. You have to have a 1 through 10 quarterback, and if they don't smell, look, everything like it, the day one that they start. Get them out, bring the next one in.
All right. Hey, I think that's a good way to finish it up with these Falcons here. I think we're going to agree on the Falcons. If I'm not mistaken, we actually might agree on something today.
We might.
All right. So raw reaction on the Falcons while I pull everything up.
I think it's going to be a bad year overall. I'm hoping that Arthur Smith coming in there. Oh my God! It's set at 7.5.
Yeah.
Their over-under is set at 7.5. Okay, well, I know what I'm going to go bet on after this, literally after this. I'm going to take the under. I'm not a big fan of the Falcons overall when it comes to, yes, I like some of the pieces in doses. I think when you look at it, Calvin Ridley, fantasy-wise, is going to be an easy wide receiver 1. I still like Matt Ryan's ability to lead a team overall. Kyle Pitts will get over 1,000 yards if that's what you're making me talk about. But Kyle Pitts is not enough to replace anything wins and losses wise on this team overall. There's going to be good production, some good highlight plays from that, but wins and losses to put this team at 7.5. I guess you're assuming that the past 3 years of injuries finally take a stop in Keanu Neal and Grady Jarrett and all of these other names who have just gotten hurt.
Yeah.
AJ Terrell steps up in a big way. I don't know. I've seen some PFF stuff, dog shitting that man.
Yeah, I don't think that's fair because I feel like every team or every rookie corner kind of struggled, and that's kind of par for the course from what we see. I'm actually looking it up on FanDuel just to see if that's the same thing. I'm not 100% sure there. Just see what the regular. Oh, yeah, so it's still 7.5. That's wild. Yeah,
and the under is plus.
Yeah, that's crazy to me because I'm going to give you some stats that are going to make you really want to bet that.
What do we not know?
No, I'm on board with you. Did lose. Okay, this is the glass half full
in a good way.
Yeah. So first of all, just looking at some interesting stats, they lost 5 fourth quarter leads in the last 2 minutes. They were 2-8 in 1-score games. They blew a lot of leads. It's unfortunate, but like Matt Ryan retires tomorrow, and I'm going to remember him as a choke artist. And granted, the Super Bowl has a big part of that, but just, knowing how the Falcons have gone really since the Super Bowl, it feels like all they've done is blow big leads. All they've done is blow a fourth quarter comeback.
Dallas.
Yes,
it was one of the earliest.
And granted, listen, every single time it happens, it's going to add up to that ultimate narrative. But it is unfortunate that a legend of the game, I'll say with Matt Ryan, I'm not ready to say Hall of Famer, but a legend of the game for sure, could be remembered as a choke artist, and that's unfortunate for a guy who is a really good player. But yeah, that's kind of how I remember, and that's certainly the story of the Falcons, the Falcons season last year. They're, like I said, 2-8 in 1-score games, blew 9 9 leads in the 2020 season. That was the 8th most since the 2000s. Like that's
Wow.
Yeah, like all time. Blew nine leads. I mean, that's crazy. Like that's a lot. So 44% win rate when so they blew 9 leads from halftime, right? So going to the half, they were leading at half 9 times, and they only won 4 of them. That's a 44% win rate. The average is 80%. 80% of the time when you're winning at half, you win the game.
That's horrendous.
That's horrendous.
I remember seeing the Cowboys win, and they just keep showing shots of the owner because he's very active at staying on the sidelines and stuff. And, it's just, like you said, it is already built in there, like predestined, that this team as a whole cannot get that monkey off their back. And I'm sorry, the window's closed.
Yeah, I agree. So like that, all of that lends itself to, a lot of those stats. Those should, go back to the mean a little bit, and by that I mean they'll win more games. But like I'm worried about their offensive line. They were the 25th ranked offensive line last year, and it got worse. They lost Alex Mack, and I don't feel like they brought anybody else that really immediately, fixes that position in any real way. They've certainly tried. They've certainly tried, but like I'm not in love with the guys they brought in free agency. Like there really wasn't anybody special. Certainly not on the offensive line. And then in the draft, you drafted Kyle Pitts, which is awesome, but you waited until the 3rd round to grab a lineman in Jalen Mayfield, who is a huge project. I feel like and certainly got a center in the 4th, and I get that. I know we're kind of going all over the place with how we do these shows, but overall, certainly worried about that offensive line.
I'm worried about the offensive line. I'm worried about the defense. I know that this team has been very, very banged up.
Let's take a step back and let's talk about first, like, the biggest thing. Their new head coach Arthur Smith, new GM Terry Fontenay, who Arthur Smith was with the Titans pretty much his entire career. Well, their new GM, who I can't really pronounce his last name, he's been with the Saints for the past 18 years. So like both guys are used to stability, staying in one place. Arthur Smith started from like the bottom and worked his way all the way up to OC. Was OC of a very good offense for 2 years, and then got the starting job. Like that's an awesome story. I feel like it's screams stability for a team that has stuck with their coaches longer than they should have. I think we knew Dan Quinn was done 2 years ago, and they stuck with him until 5 games into this season. We knew the GM was making mistakes. I felt like there were a lot of things I could point to with their GM from Benioff from the last regime that like I didn't like. I thought they could have done better. They stuck with him for a long ass time. I mean, he drafted Julio Jones.
And Dan Quinn were riding off of, and GM especially was getting to do the Julio Jones thing that he found that, and the Super Bowl. Yeah, the Super Bowl appearance was enough to be like.
But it was like the second Kyle Shanahan leaves, everything falls apart. Yeah, I wonder if there's a connection. So I thought that was interesting. Any thoughts there with those 2 hires though, and what it means for the future of the Falcons?
I think future for the Falcons, it can get better. It can. I like the acquisition of Kyle Pitts. Mm-hmm. I think it's a good pick a lot. I think Calvin Ridley still has a lot of good football left in him too. A very, very good career coming up.
I have some stats for you.
I think it's going to be really good. You're going to have that weird, awkward transition with balancing the old, aging Matt Ryan's books out, because you owe him a ton of money coming up, and you can only hope that his play stays where it's at, because if it declines, right now it's $48.6 million and then $43 the next year.
Yeah. Over the next 2 years,
you're tied down to him. So exactly that. You're tied down to him, and I don't see them I don't see them competing.
And that actually kind of makes sense why they didn't go why they didn't go Fields there or any other quarterback to groom behind Matt Ryan, because they're stuck with Matt Ryan for 3 more years. This season and then 2 more seasons. They backload the contract heavily. They owe him the most of any player over the next 2 years. Matt Ryan's getting the most money of any player. That's above all the other great quarterbacks in the NFL.
That's the type of thing you do to try to keep a Super Bowl window open.
And that's what they did. They tried to keep everybody. And when you talk about contracts again, just before the draft, so this is before the trade and everything, 77% of their 2021 cap was taken up by Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, Grady Jarrett, Jake Matthews, and Deion Jones. That's 5 players. 5 players took up 77% of their cap. Now, that's before the draft, and that's not the case right now, but that speaks to how poor Benioff handled the cap, and really, just backloaded everything.
Especially when you consider a Deion Jones hasn't played a full season since he's been in the league, and I think he's missed more games than he's played overall. I don't quote me off of that, but I know Grady Jarrett was banged up too.
Yeah, so and listen, those are 5 good players.
And Julio.
Those are 5 good players. I'm not taking that away from that, but you could trade a couple of those for 7-8 solid starters, and that might help you out a little. And needless to say, it didn't work. You're paying. You won less games than 5.
I just don't see how they get put at 7 wins. Carolina was at 8. I'm thinking about the over-unders.
Yeah.
New Orleans was at 9, and I think Tampa was at 11, right?
Yeah, it does.
How do they think this division is just going to be that competitive? I think it is a clear-cut bottom tier dweller in the Falcons on this division.
Yeah, I gave them 5. I gave them 5 wins. You gave them 4.
Can you put the graphic on what their schedule looks like?
Yeah, let's. I might not have that, but I can pull it up.
But I already know the cross division though. You have to play the AFC East and you have to play the NFC East as well.
Yeah. Keep talking for a second. I'll pull it up.
I don't think that they're a good enough team to be able to get over some of those humps. I really don't. I think Miami is by far better. I know we're going to talk about the Jets a little bit later. I think the Jets can handle this team right now. I think the Jets are primed and pushing for the right way.
Yeah,
that's exactly what I'm saying. That says all that I need to say.
Yeah.
If I evaluate the Jets, and I'm down on them compared to a lot of people.
So overall, their average is 15th. So they have an average schedule in the NFL. Pretty good start to the season, though. I will say that.
I will say I can see where they're fortunate enough they do get to catch. As much as I just hyped up the Jets, I would say coin flip game. I give the edge to the Jets if I had to pick.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think.
You get Eagles, Giants, Washington.
Philly, Giants, Jets. There's 3. Let's give them Jags 4. Let's Lions 5. That's just, I'm giving the Jets the easy one. I know I just hyped them up, but
really, you look at the first 4 of the first 5 games are very winnable for the Falcons.
Is there a world where they have?
Is there a world where they're 4-1? Yeah, I'd be shocked.
Pitts is just tearing it up or something.
Yeah, it's not completely out of the realm of possibility. If they go 4-1, they're hitting 7. I
stand by what I said.
Yeah, I do too.
My 4 wins that I gave them was splitting with the Panthers. I think
Washington's a lot better than. I think Washington's a lot better than that. So I think there's a world where they go 3-2. I don't think they beat Washington. I really don't. I totally get what you're saying there. Absolutely agree.
I see a lot of for sure losses up on that schedule.
Yes, there's a lot.
They either play the team where it's like they're bad, or they get the big dogs of the NFL.
Exactly.
Cowboys, Saints, Buccaneers, Bills, 49ers.
Yeah, there's some tough ones there. There certainly are. Yeah, so I don't know how. I don't know how they got there. You mentioned Calvin Ridley a handful of times. I do want to talk about Calvin Ridley. He posted 8 100-plus yard receiving games last year. He was on the field for 82.8% of snap share. Got 143 targets. Just killed it last year fantasy-wise, right? Now Julio Jones is gone. You're replacing him
with Julio.
Yeah, exactly. Now, granted, it was kind of interesting because the split, and I don't have it, but I did look it up. The split between snap share with Julio Jones and without Julio Jones, not a huge difference. Like with target share. I apologize. There was a slight uptick, but it was not anything crazy, and so that was certainly surprising to me that there was a bigger uptick when
you would think there'd be discrepancy there.
You would think there would be a bigger one. It was actually bigger with the tight ends off the field, with the tight ends on the field. So with 2 tight end sets and things like that, he had a bigger target share, but that does kind of speak to what they're going to be doing. I imagine Arthur Smith is coming from 2 tight end heaven with the Titans. They're going to be doing a lot of 2 tight end sets. Calvin Ridley is going to be the main target. I think he will be the crux of this offense. And I'm not sitting here saying he will step up and take the true Julio Jones role because nobody could fill those shoes.
That's hard.
But I think it wasn't that long ago. It was a career ago basically, but it wasn't that long ago when Julio was a young guy and he was coming into some pretty big shoes. With Roddy White, exactly. So they've had a pretty good succession of wide receivers, I would say, for the Falcons. They've hit on some guys, and I think Calvin Ridley's a damn good player.
He is.
But also tied for the 3rd most drops in the NFL. Worth mentioning.
That's unfortunate.
It is. It's only 9 though. It wasn't ridiculous, and certainly his drop percentage is a lot lower based on all the targets he got. But 9 it does tie it for 3rd. That's all I have on the players there. Let's go through their draft and free agency real quick, and then we'll finish it up.
Yeah, bet.
All right.
Where's free agency at?
Free agency is
here.
here.
Yeah, we went over their draft.
Oh, we did go to the draft. You're right.
We covered
yeah. So talk for a second while I pull it up. There it goes. There it is.
They didn't do nothing.
They really didn't. Yeah, they lost pieces.
I think losing Alex Mack was a huge one too.
Huge loss.
He went to the 49ers, right?
I believe. Yeah, he did. And that was a big
dang.
addition. We talked about the 49ers talking about Alex Mack. Huge addition for that offensive line. This is a big loss.
This offensive line wasn't good enough in the first place to lose a piece that was a healthy piece in Alex Mack.
You say it wasn't good. 25th. I mean, we already mentioned that. But yeah, absolutely. I absolutely agree. I think we pretty much covered the Falcons in a roundabout way.
I think we just keep trying to find a way to say that they're going to be good.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't see it.
Yeah,
I will 110% bet on the under. I promise you.
Yeah, no, I agree. I pulled up FanDuel. I already have it, so I'll be betting on the under too. All right, guys. Hey, that is all we have on this episode of Between the Pylons. We did the NFC South. Do you have anything you want to say?
No.
First week of preseason. I did a live stream on it last night. Any thoughts you want to put out there real quick?
Out of everything that's out there?
Well, just, I mean, if you want something recorded to bring back later,
I think your boy Jordan Love did really good.
Jordan Love did do well, yeah.
I think he did really good.
Well.
Even on some of those incompletions, when you look at the ability and the way that he, like, I saw 3 plays off the top of my head, and there's one after giving the play action, he looks 1, he looks 2, and then he throws the smart dump off. And just to be able to have the poise, because there wasn't a preseason last year. He didn't do that in
college.
And there wasn't a preseason last year.
That was the first time we got to see him. Yeah.
This was the same type of appearance. Like, everyone was hyping up, oh, it's Trevor time, Zach Wilson time, Justin Fields time, Trey Lance time, as they should. Yeah. This was Jordan Love's debut.
It was the first,
he
it was his
touched
debut.
The fields. Yeah.
Yeah, it absolutely was. And people kind of, and I've heard no national media on it.
No,
That's
I haven't.
The sad part.
If you haven't watched it, try to find a way. Just look it up.
Yeah, look it up on YouTube.
He did a phenomenal
job.
He did really good.
He did really well. I'm glad you mentioned it. Yeah, because absolutely, he showed the physical ability that he has, and that was my big thing coming out of college. I was high on him.
It looks like he added some brain to it too.
Yeah,
it really does.
Man, I'm excited. I really am. I might not get slapped 3 times by Corkin.
You might not. Yeah.
All right, guys, that is all we have. We will check out, and we'll be back probably about an hour to record the next episode.
7.
Peace out.